All right, let's get started. So, first off, thank you all so much for joining us for our virtual panel. Really appreciate you all taking an hour out of your day to join us for this. So, couple things to go over first off. So, the chat is disabled. So, if you have any questions at all, then please do ask any questions you may have. Type them in the Q&A function on Zoom down below. And also, if you'd like more information, then please go onto our website at visit.berkeley.edu or send an email over to tour@berkeley.edu. And with that, let's just jump right into some introductions. So, first off, that is me. I am the moderator for today. So, I am Albert. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm from right across the bay from Berkeley in San Francisco, California. I'm a sophomore and I'm majoring in computer science and comp science. I'm also involved in the debate community on campus. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to ask. And let me now pass it off to our panelists.
Hello, everybody. I hope we're all having a fantastic day today. My name is Aiden. I use the pronouns he, him, and his. I'm from Dana Point, California, which is in the Orange County area, kind of south of the Los Angeles area of California. I'm a junior this year, and I'm studying chemical engineering. And as for some of my involvement on campus, other than being a campus ambassador, is that I'm a member of the UC Rally Committee, which is this big spirit organization on campus. We're usually involved with all the different sports games and doing all kinds of fun, spirity stuff when those happen. Last year, I taught the Cal History Spirit and Traditions decal. So if you're unfamiliar, decals are courses at UC Berkeley that are taught by students to other students. So last year, over the past 2 semesters, I taught a class all about the spirit and traditions of our university, and that was really fun. And another group I'm a part of is the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, or IKE for short. And that is a group that gets all the chemical engineers on campus to meet each other and connects us to all sorts of internships and research opportunities. And with that, I'll pass it over to our next panelists to introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Harmenjit. I go by she, her, and hers. I'm from Modesto, California, which is a town in California's Central Valley. I'm a third year double majoring in molecular and cell biology and public health. As for my involvement, in addition to being a campus ambassador, I'm an undergraduate student instructor, which is similar to a TA or a teaching assistant for MCB 32, which is a lower division human physiology course. Matriculate, which is a national nonprofit that empowers low-income, high-achieving high school students. Cub Support, which provides free virtual support to K through 12 students. And I did some volunteer work in some hospitals and clinics pre-COVID, and I'm a GBO leader and also dabble in a little bit of research.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cal, at least virtually. My name is Navya. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I grew up on the East Coast in Massachusetts, but I'm currently coming to you from Dublin, California, which is about 35-minute drive away from Berkeley. I'm currently a senior here at Cal, which is terrifying to say. I am double majoring in public health and molecular cell biology, and I'm currently working on my honors thesis for public health. Some of the stuff that I'm involved in on campus, firstly, I do lots of different areas of research. Particularly, I'm involved with CRISPR research under Dr. Jennifer Doudna, who just won a Nobel Prize, which is super exciting. I'm also part of a couple different nonprofit organizations. Firstly, Asha for Education, which is supporting education opportunities for underprivileged kids in India. Similarly, I've been interning with a nonprofit based in Tanzania called Reach Sharati, and I'm also involved in the organic chemistry department as a teacher scholar, which is also the equivalent of a TA. So we are very excited to answer your questions today.
All right, so before we officially start off with the questions, there should be a poll popping up on your screen. There will be periodically some polls that will be appearing. If you'd like to answer those, then please go ahead and answer those. We just want to get a better sense of who is joining us today. Looks like we have a lot of high school seniors joining us today. So yeah, best of luck in the college applications process. I know the UC application is due in the near future, so best of luck in filling that out. All right, so first question is for Navya. So what was your freshman experience like? And do you have any recommendations for the best places to study or hang out on campus?
Yeah, that's a loaded question, I would say. Freshman year was, 3 years ago now, but I remember it so vividly because I thoroughly enjoyed every single day, honestly. I grew up in different high schools, different middle schools. I was moving around a lot. So I never really had, a solid group of friends. I never really had a best friend. That was never something that, I ever even thought about. But when I came to Cal, within honestly, the first week, you're meeting new people every single day and you're making new friends. And that's exactly what I got myself into. Every day I was meeting someone new in all of my classes, in my clubs that I was meeting. I was just meeting people like on campus randomly, like on our lawns, on our benches, whenever. So I would say the majority of my freshman year experience would be comprised in meeting people, getting to know people, and at the same time starting to get to know myself. I think one of the reasons I came to Cal was to get a better sense of self. And I think the best way to do that is to throw yourself in a situation like college, especially somewhere like Berkeley. So my freshman experience was filled with making new friends, really figuring out my study schedule. That definitely took me a solid semester to figure out how I best studied, and also trying new food around campus, trying different experiences. Some of my favorite places on campus are all outdoor. That was another reason why I chose to come to Cal. It is absolutely gorgeous. I loved sitting outside. I'm someone that would sit outside in the grass, do my homework for hours on end if it wasn't for Wi-Fi problems or my laptop, dying of battery. So I love going outside. One of my absolute favorite places in the entire world is Memorial Glade, which is like our big lawn area. And a lot of students go there to just hang out during the day, just chill, get some lunch, meet up with some friends. I remember one of my first semester's freshman year, I was on the Glade with my roommate and we were just hanging out on the lawn, and there was this guy behind us and he was playing all this really great music, like really rhythmic music. And I looked over to this guy and I said, "Hey dude, like I really like your vibe. I would love to, get your playlist or your Spotify information or something." And this guy, he says, "Oh no, I've just been queuing random stuff on YouTube, but I'd be happy to put it all into a playlist for you." So he did that. He spent the next 20 minutes putting a playlist together. He sent it to my roommate and we still talk about that playlist to this day. So I think that's a big testament to everyone that you will meet at Berkeley. You never know who you will meet, and that just makes the experience a whole lot more special. So freshman year and every year since has been all about that.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's so many different students at Cal that you can honestly just meet all kinds of people. And generally, I'd say the people here are willing to help you out if you ask them. All right, next question. So this one's for Aiden. So how does Berkeley help to find jobs after you graduate? And are there resources for internships or on-campus work?
Yes, UC Berkeley has a ton of resources when it comes to jobs and internships. So I'll go through the ones that I've been exposed to. I'm sure there's a lot more resources in this, because one thing I realized about Berkeley is that there's a ton of different like resources and departments with all sorts of stuff that can help. And I'm definitely not exposed to all of it. And I hear a lot from here and there from people about all kinds of unique opportunities. And so the things I've been exposed to is so early, the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, IKE, the group that I'm in. And so that group is all about chemical engineers, getting people connected to chemical engineering internship and research. But there's all sorts of different groups on campus that are for all the different majors and all the different subcategories and topics and different industries. So that's really amazing that we have a lot of the students like being directly involved in connecting people with those. And IKE has like organized all sorts of different info sessions where basically a company comes and they like thing about their company, and then afterwards you can talk to them one-on-one. And I know people have gotten internship opportunities through that. Other than that, we have career fairs, which when things are in person, companies are in like our big gym area and people can come up and talk to them about their different companies and get also internship and job opportunities through that. And another big thing is it has the career center, and the career center does the same sort of stuff where they connect you to all the different job opportunities. And I know somebody last year who got a job through the career center, and what they did is that they organized an interview inside the career center at Berkeley, and he had his interview there and he was able to get a job through that. So that's pretty awesome. And for all those groups I just mentioned, because everything is online this semester, they found ways to transition everything online. Like IKE, they've had Zoom things where they've had the same representatives come with people being able to talk to them. And I know the Career Center has moved most of their stuff online. Their website is career.berkeley.edu if you want to check that out. And so, yeah, lots of different opportunities and resources to help with jobs. And as for on-campus jobs and on-campus opportunities, there's a lot of great stuff. Like being a campus ambassador like us is a really fun job. I really enjoy this. It's a nice way to get a little extra cash on the side while doing all the extra fun Berkeley life stuff. And there's also some other different job opportunities. I know a lot of the things depend on things being in person. Like my roommate freshman year worked in the dining halls, and I know some people who've worked in the library system. So there's a lot of different resources for people to get jobs and internships. And it's a pretty neat system to be a part of, because I know that when I'm going out into doing the whole job search next year, I know there's a lot of resources out there to help me out.
Awesome. Yeah. Shout out to the Career Center. I had to update my resume recently, had lots of great resources on their website on how to do that. Also, if you want, you can also make appointments with the Career Center employees. They can help you out with specifically tailoring your resume for whatever type of job you want to be applying for. So definitely make use of that if you need help with those sorts of things. All right. So next questions for Harmenjit. What is the workload like? If we want to potentially major, would this be manageable, and would we still have an okay work-life balance?
Yeah, great question. So workload definitely depends on major and interests. Like in all honesty, some majors are a bit more time intensive than others, but a standard that's used to basically quantify workload is units. So classes are usually assigned a unit value. From my experience, they're typically around 4 units, maybe some 3 unit courses. And basically 1 unit corresponds to 3 hours of work. So that's like a basic quantifiable way to kind of assess workload. But in all honesty, the unit system is a bit variable. Some classes definitely may require more time than what the units indicate. However, from my experience, the workload is pretty manageable. Professors are understanding that we have interests outside of maybe that class. So it is pretty manageable. As for double majoring, I'm currently double majoring, and I have found the workload to be manageable because I found that a lot of my classes actually overlap with molecular and cell biology and public health. So I'm able to knock out some of the prerequisites for both courses with just one course, which is really great. If you're interested in double majoring, I definitely recommend talking to an advisor so you guys can create a set plan. And so you know that the workload will be manageable.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, definitely agree. Make sure to talk to advisors, especially if you plan to double major, just so you can sort of craft out a plan for when you can graduate, and if you can graduate when you want to. Very important. Also, you can help decide which classes you want to take, which classes don't need to focus as much on. Yeah. All right. Next question. This one's for Navya. So, any favorite memorable experiences from the dorms, and how would you describe the dorms at Berkeley?
That's a great question. Firstly, I want to say that I was very lucky my freshman year. I was placed into a suite at Clark Kerr, which I think is the absolute best residence hall. Anyone can fight me on that, but I believe Clark Kerr is the absolute best. It is slightly further away from campus. It's about 15-20 minute walk, but I really like the distance, being able to separate school and home. I really enjoyed that. So I lived in a double suite. So what that looked like, my roommate and I were in a double, and there were 3 other girls in a triple, and all 5 of us, we shared 2 full bathrooms with sinks, with showers, and we had like a mini kitchen space and a little bit of a living room. So it was like a mini apartment. Of course, you had to pay for those little bit extra living situations, but I really loved it. And it really came in handy around this time of year. So November of my freshman year, as I was saying before, I was so in love with all of my friends. I really loved having a friend group, and I really wanted to do something special for everyone. So I was committed to this idea of a Friendsgiving. Of course, I didn't have a single pot or pan with me. I didn't have really any appliances with me, but Clark Kerr actually has a mini kitchen in one of its buildings. So my roommates and I proceeded to cook an entire Friendsgiving for a group of about 12 of our friends. And I kid you not, I made mac and cheese in a kettle because there were no other pots and pans to use. So I just put the little pasta shells in the kettle and I boiled the water, and it worked perfectly. You just mix the cheese in there. We made a full course meal. We had appetizers, entrees, obviously, and of course, dessert. So that was super fun. And I always love telling that because as much as the dorms can feel like they're limited spaces, especially if you're not in a suite, there are plenty of ways for you to get involved in the dorms. One thing I really appreciated my freshman year is I got involved in something called the Residence Hall Assembly, which is like the student government of the residence halls. And as part of this organization, I was dealing with the social events. I was like vice president of social events or something. So one of my other favorite events that we did, I love football. I'm a giant football fan. I love the NFL, love college football. So when the Super Bowl came around, we organized an entire Super Bowl viewing party for the entirety of Clark Kerr. We got pizza, we got wings, we got sodas, every sort of like football snack you could imagine, and we had a great time. So there's definitely ways to get involved in the dorms. I would say it takes time to meet new people and figure out what spaces work best for you, but there's so many lounges. Even the dining halls themselves are great ways to meet new people and get to know people and have a good time. Even if you're taking classes and you're doing midterms all the time, there's definitely ways to have fun, and I know I definitely did.
All right. Speaking of the dorms, actually, there is the next poll. Where are you joining us from? So go ahead and answer that if you'd like. Just want to see where are our viewers joining us from. Just a response to Navya, actually. Yeah, definitely do agree that that sounds so much fun having a Friendsgiving with your friends in the dorms. Not sure if I would personally make mac and cheese in a kettle, but I guess when you don't have any bowls, you just gotta come up with modern problems require modern solutions, as they say. I think that's a good example of that. Looks like we have a lot of viewers joining us from Southern California, so welcome. Hope it's not too hot down there right now. Yeah, thank you for joining us. All right, next question. So, what are some popular extracurriculars and how can I get a good balance of academic and social life at Berkeley? And this one's for Harmenjit.
Yeah, so I think it's hard to consider one extracurricular to be more popular than another at UC Berkeley just because the community is so diverse in terms of interests and passions. In fact, there's over 1,000 registered student organizations. So as you can see, there's tons of the students just have tons of different interests. So it's hard to assign like a popular extracurricular, I would say. But the majority of UC Berkeley students do get involved in some form of research. We are the #1 public research institution, so students usually take advantage of that and participate in some form of research. In addition to research, people usually join registered student organizations, which I think kind of leads in perfectly to the second half of the question. How can you get a good balance of academic and these registered student organizations? Because oftentimes, even if the student organization is geared a little bit more towards academics, they still have socials, and it's a great way to form community. And I mean, socialize a bit because I know academics can be at the forefront of people's minds. So this just allows people to also socialize on the side.
All right, yeah, definitely agree. Uh, lots of uh, lots of fun extracurriculars at Berkeley you can get involved with. There's so many thousands of clubs available on campus. Definitely recommend checking those out if you have any extracurricular interests that you just see interesting that you see on campus. All right, next question for Aiden. So, what has your experience been learning over Zoom?
Yeah, so learning over Zoom has been pretty interesting, very different than what we're used to. So I'll say, first of all, that when Zoom was first introduced last spring semester, it was definitely like a little bit more on the rough side, but I think that's completely understandable because we just last second had to move over to the new format and all the professors had to figure out how to do everything. But the summer in between the spring and fall semester definitely helped professors figure out how to adapt to everything being on Zoom. And now this semester, I feel like they're doing a really great job of handling things being on Zoom. I was very afraid going this semester, like I wouldn't have the same level of engagement and I wouldn't be able to learn all the same materials much, especially if something like engineering I'm studying, like I didn't know how well I'd be able to learn just sitting from a computer. But I think our professors have done a really great job of transitioning over to Zoom. They have a lot of like in class, like how I say this, like interactive elements, like they'll have like polls involved in it. And a lot of professors encourage people still to just like talk, say like express their thoughts during lectures, which I think is really great and engaging. And there's a lot of like neat perks that kind of help out with everything being online to help us like move around our schedule, because we'll have classes that are synchronous and asynchronous. So you'll have like a certain time period during the day where like you'll have your class where you can be there live in a Zoom meeting. But for some people might be living in different time zones. So they like upload the lectures afterwards, like they record the lectures and then they post them online afterwards. And I think that's really useful because like I'll go to the class like during the actual class time. And if there's something I don't understand, I can rewatch the class and like look at the specific part that I don't understand. It's neat having that recording, being able to rewatch that. And so, yeah, and I feel like that's just a thing that makes it really neat. There's a lot more like flexibility in our schedules, and there's a lot of neat stuff where it's like, oh, like you don't have to do all the preparation time to like walk all the way to class, because there's like a little bit of distance that you would have to walk normally, but it's like you can be in your pajamas and just go in front of your computer and be right there in class. So it's definitely not the most ideal. I definitely miss everything being in person, but we are doing a pretty good job of handling it here at UC Berkeley, and I'm very thankful that I'm still able to get this great education from these awesome professors here online.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's really great when I wake up 10 minutes late to class and I can just open up my laptop and join with a click of a button. A lot better than having to wait for the elevator, going down the elevator, running to my class. Yeah, that always takes forever. It's not a fun process, but at least I can just open up my laptop if I wake up late now. All right, next question. This one's for Navya. So when is the choice to double major made? Prior to the start of the year, sometime during freshman year? When do you choose?
Yeah, so I would say the answer to this question is the beauty of Berkeley. So the answer is whenever you want. However, the earlier the better. So for me, I am currently double majoring in public health and biology, just like Harmenjit. I came in as molecular cell bio. That's what I applied for. That's what I was really set on. I came in, and within my first week of orientation, actually, I went to this info session that was titled, "What is Public Health?" And I realized that, oh, public health is actually what I want to do. I didn't realize there was a major for that. I didn't realize that all of my interests were in this one major and I didn't just have to do biology. So I thought I had to switch my major. So for freshman year into the first half of sophomore year, I was super set on just public health. Public health is one of those majors where you have to actually apply at some point in your college career because they do have some requirements. So I applied at the end of my sophomore year. So up until then, that's the only thing I was thinking about. I was taking my biology classes because I'm also pre-medicine on the pre-med track. So I was taking those classes anyway, but just for the requirement. And I was kind of focusing on my public health classes for the major requirements. So after I got into public health, which was the summer after my sophomore year, I took a biochemistry course the fall of my junior year, and I realized I do biology research. I'm really loving this biochemistry class. Why did I ever let go of my biology major? There is no reason for me to let go of it. It is totally possible for me to do both majors and get 2 degrees from this university. Why wouldn't you do that, you know? So I spent that entire semester talking to my peers, talking to my advisors. I was talking to my research mentor, just trying to get other people's opinions. And I made the decision at the end of my first semester of junior year. So for some people that might be a little bit late. I know people that like just added a major this past summer and they're currently seniors. So there's definitely ways for you to make this decision at any point in time. However, the earlier, the better, especially if your 2 majors are not overlapping. For me, I was definitely lucky because I was already taking those biology classes and a lot of the classes between public health and biology overlap. But if you're doing something that's totally different, you might want to account for that extra time, have to take some summer classes. But overall, a good 97% of our students do graduate in the 4-year time frame. So even if you do change your mind at the last minute, there are plenty of resources to help you get the degree or degrees that you want.
All right, yeah. And Harmenjit, would you like to add on to that as well?
Yeah, just to add on to that. So actually, I'm not even sure if Navya knows this, but I was actually inspired to double major in public health because of a tour that I was shadowing that she was leading. And she was like, oh, I'm double majoring in public health in molecular and cell biology. I was like, oh, what's public health? And then from there, I looked into it. So yeah, I was inspired by Navya, which is really awesome. And I actually, just learned about it last semester, and now I'm a third year. So I definitely do think it's not too late, but like Navya mentioned, it is better to start it earlier. I was fortunate that a lot of the classes did overlap, so that's why it's still a possibility. But yeah, what Navya said.
That's such a great inspirational story. Yeah, that's pretty amazing to hear that. Yeah. Also, there is the third poll. So, what are you interested in? Since we are talking about different double majors and interests, of course, what do you want to study? Engineering, chemistry, biological sciences, environmental sciences, social sciences, arts, humanities, all sorts of different areas. Looks like we have people interested in engineering and physical science. All right, awesome, pretty great. Cool. All right, next question. So this was also for Navya. So someone asks, what is there to do off campus in the general city of Berkeley?
Gosh, what isn't there to do? I would say this question can be split into two categories. Number one is food, because I'm a giant foodie and I love any kind of food and I love exploring different restaurants. So Berkeley is filled with all sorts of food. So I always loved trying new places on the weekends. My absolute meal of the day, which I don't know if it's weird to have a favorite meal of the day, but my favorite meal of the day is brunch. And Berkeley is iconic for brunches. So on the weekends, I really loved going to brunch with my friends. And before that, often we would go on hikes, which is another testament to how beautiful Berkeley is. There are so many hills around Berkeley. There are so many different trails that you can take. You can hike, you can bike. I know a lot of people that love doing that on the weekends. It's just a really nice way to just get your head out of the books for a little bit and see the sunset or the sunrise and get some air and then get some good food after. So hiking and brunch definitely is one of my favorite things. Another thing, the Berkeley Marina is super close to campus. You can take the bus there, you can bike there, you can take a car there if you have a car, but it's a really beautiful area, a really great, sea, lake, whatever it is. I don't know what it is, some body of water. It's really beautiful. And they do actually have free like kayak rentals for Berkeley students. So I did that a couple times and I'm horrible at water sports, I guess, but it's really fun. Again, a really nice way to just kind of get your head out of the books again and just get some fresh air. And finally, I personally love art, and there are lots of art studios and pottery studios around campus and around Berkeley as well. So my friends and I love doing that, just going to a pottery studio and just chilling for a bit and using some colors and paint and letting our creative selves run wild. So really there's everything you could possibly imagine at Berkeley, and 4 years is not enough to explore it all. So you will find something to do, I promise.
Yeah, there's so many different things to do in Berkeley, and also favorite meal of the day. I've not heard of such a thing, but actually, now that I think about it, I feel like brunch probably is my my favorite meal of the day. It's a little more socially acceptable to have foods that are basically dessert for brunch, but can't quite eat ice cream for breakfast. But I guess you can put some ice cream in your brunch. So, yeah, it's kind of a weird thing to say, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say that. All right, next question. In UCSD, you cannot double major if you're in their engineering school. Aiden, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I can answer this. So I'm definitely not a pro at double majoring. I mean, I know Harmenjit and Navya are double majoring, but I've talked to a lot of people that are double majors, and I feel like I have a pretty good knowledge of what that's all about. So to my knowledge, there pretty much isn't too much restriction on what you can double major in. I know that there's like certain requirements, like you have to have a certain amount of like GPA and be in good academic standing, all that stuff. But other than that, you should be able to double major in basically whatever you want. And so some examples of some people that I know that have double majored in some crazy stuff in the past is that a couple of years ago, I know someone who double majored in chemical engineering and computer science, which is pretty crazy and a lot of work, but they were able to get it done. I know somebody who graduated chemistry and bioengineering, and somebody that does chemistry and English. So you can really do something related to your major or something that's complete polar opposites. Yeah, it's just a matter of like talking with your academic advisors. The academic advisors here at Berkeley are very helpful. The ones that I've had in the College of Chemistry have done a really great job of telling me like what classes I need to take and all that. And so basically it's just a lot of just working with them, seeing what classes you have to take when. And yeah, and so there really is a lot of freedom to take that. And I'd say about double majoring, because like from my perspective, like I don't necessarily feel the need to double major. And I've especially felt that when I got through my first 2 semesters here. And there's a lot of freedom actually in my chemical engineering major and a lot of other majors just to take classes here and there from other departments just to broaden your knowledge. So I wouldn't say it's like a deal or no deal like sort of thing with double majoring, where it won't be like the end of the world if you don't double major, because there's a lot of freedom for you just to take those miscellaneous classes in different departments. But if you do want to double major though, there's a lot of freedom to do that and a lot of different options and combinations to choose from. So you can really study whatever you want if you get here into Berkeley.
Yeah, definitely. Just to be clear, it's not at all a requirement to double major or to not double major. You can, if you want to double major, if you have multiple areas that you're interested in, feel free to look into that. And if you think you can fit it into your schedule, then definitely go for it. But yeah, of course, definitely do speak to advisors, of course, to make sure that you can graduate when you want to. All right, next question. So, what is the professor-student relationship like, and how open are they to helping you? This one's for Harmenjit.
Yeah, I love talking about the professors at Berkeley because not only are they like world-class experts in their fields, but just because of how open they are to helping students. So professors host this thing called office hours, where basically you can just go in, ask them any questions, get help with the material, maybe ask them about some of their stuff that they're researching or maybe about their interest. And it's absolutely awesome. I know for like one of my professors, I took a course on climate change, and we actually the two of us actually met up in San Francisco and went to this event together to get some more information about climate change, which was really awesome. And then we discussed it. So getting a little bit more like in-depth knowledge one-on-one from someone is absolutely awesome. And I will say that I have never had a professor that isn't willing to help and be open to helping. For example, even like in this Zoom university times, oftentimes professors are willing to make accommodations. Just recently, there were a few power outages throughout California. So one of my professors actually extended the deadline for an assignment. So very considerate and open to helping each other. So I would say the professor-student relationship is really positive and open.
I agree, definitely. Definitely make use of office hours, very useful resource if you ever want to talk to your professors. It is their designated time to talk to them, or, if you can't make their office hours, send them an email. In my experience, my professors have always been very open to, if you can't make my office hours, send me an email and we'll make accommodations so we can meet. Yeah. All right, next question. So, what is the academic culture like? Aiden, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so this is definitely a big fear I had coming into UC Berkeley. First of all, like when I applied here, like I didn't know too much about Berkeley. I didn't know too many people went to the university, so I really didn't know what it was like. And I read all the online rumors saying like, oh, it's super competitive, it's really cutthroat, all this other stuff that made me like really scared. But I can say though, when I came here, that thankfully a lot of those rumors and misconceptions that I had in my mind were very wrong. It is a very collaborative culture, and there's a lot of things the university does to encourage that collaboration. So professors like encourage a lot of collaboration, and at office hours, which we just talked a little bit about earlier, there's usually like a lot of work that's done there to help students like talk to each other to figure out stuff. And then we also have discussion sections for a lot of our classes. So the way how a lot of our classes are structured is that we have a one lecture section, which everybody in the class, it can range from like a very large class to like a bit more of a smaller size. And then we have discussion sections, which are run by GSIs or graduate students. And the discussion sections are much smaller. They're supposed to mimic about the size of a high school class, so around like the mid like 20s-ish is the size of those classes. And there's a big emphasis there where it's like the GSI will give us some sort of problem and then break us up into different groups, and then we have to figure out how to do that. And that works really well with everything being on Zoom, with us having breakout rooms. It's very easy for the GSI just to click, make breakout rooms, then we all meet together and figure out how to do something. And yeah, and then there's just a lot of other examples I have of just collaboration on campus, because definitely early on when I first came here, it was definitely a little bit of an adjustment to figure out like how the assignments work and the workload for college. And so there's a lot of times where like I went to a library with friends and we tried to figure out how to do a problem set, or we got together to study before midterm. And those resources and that like emphasis and collaboration has definitely made me a lot more successful than it would be in like in a different environment. So I'm definitely very thankful for that. And yeah, and so yeah, Berkeley overall has a very like collaborative culture. I will say that like it still definitely is a lot of work and can be really tough, but it does help when you have that community together with you and you kind of suffer through it together and you get through it. And yeah, it's been a pretty fun time being able to have a lot of friends who study the same thing with me, and we're all able to get together and study and get all of our work done.
Yeah, definitely agree. Just a couple of examples in my own experience of collaboration. A lot of my assignments in my classes, they do allow for partners, for the homeworks, they say work together in a group if that's possible. Later today, I'm actually working on one of my computer science projects to design a CPU with a partner for the project. So it's kind of complicated, but now that there's two of us, I'm sure we can figure it out eventually. So yeah, Berkeley definitely encourages lots of cooperative work when possible. All right, next question. This one's for Navya. So, how could I get involved in research, and are there any programs focused on undergraduate research?
Absolutely, there are. I think Harmenjit is the one who mentioned it earlier, but Berkeley, on top of being the #1 public university, we are the #1 public research university, and of course, there's a reason for that. So Berkeley, in every corner, every walk of life, every department, there is some level of research going on. I think oftentimes students, prospective students or families, they might assume that it's mostly STEM research. And of course, that's what I'm involved in. That's what I have the most experience in. But I will say there are just a range of departments you can get involved in. I have a friend who recently graduated and he was a chem major and he was doing art history research along with his chemistry research. So there's really a plethora of different fields you can get involved in. But personally, I wanted to get involved in some type of biology research, and I knew that there were lots of avenues to do so. So within campus, there is a universal application called URAP, which is the Undergraduate Research Apprenticeship Program. The idea is that at the beginning of each semester, the fall and spring semester, this website will list out a variety of different projects under a variety of different departments. They will list the project title, the principal investigator, or the group that's doing the research, what they're looking for in an undergraduate, and what the interview process is like. So if you choose to go that avenue, you can apply to 3 different groups at a time. You can go through interview processes, see how that works out. Personally, for me, that process didn't work out. I also didn't feel super inspired about the projects that were listed there. I think I was really interested in a very specific field of science. And for me, that was CRISPR research. CRISPR was something that I had read about in high school. It's something that I was reading all these papers about coming into Berkeley. Honestly, one of the reasons I chose to come to Berkeley. So what I chose to do was a little bit more of a difficult method. I decided to just cold email a bunch of professors in the specific CRISPR field. So I emailed, I want to say, a good 40 people. That's principal investigators, postdoctorate scholars, or undergraduates or graduate students, just asking them if there are any opportunities available. And luckily through that, after a semester of doing that, I was able to find the lab that I'm currently in. So I mentioned earlier that I work under Dr. Jennifer Doudna, which has been an incredible experience. For my personal research, I'm lucky to get paid for my research. However, this isn't the case for other positions. So just as there are a variety of different departments you can get involved in, there's a variety of different compensations you can get, either, for example, volunteering, or you can get academic units, so that will count towards your graduation, or you might get paid. Oftentimes over the summer, if you're doing some type of research, you can get a grant for that, and the university will essentially pay you to do this research for them, which I think is great. So whatever it is that you're interested in, if you want to get involved in research, there's absolutely ways for you to do that. You just kind of have to give it your best shot and take advantage of all the opportunities around you. But it's definitely something I recommend, and definitely something that's been a huge part of my Berkeley experience.
Awesome. Yeah. And just to add on, actually, STEM research is not the only form of research we do on campus. We have lots of opportunities for non-STEM in humanities research as well. We have plenty of primary sources just laying around in our libraries. We have tons of books that are centuries old, and people are just waiting to look into them. So, if you're not a STEM major, still plenty of opportunities for research as well. All right. So to jump to the next, or the other side of the coin of research, internships, how does that work? So does Berkeley have local internship opportunities? And this one's for Aiden.
Yes, there are a ton of research, not research, still thinking about the previous question. Lots of internship opportunities all throughout Berkeley and in the Bay Area, because Berkeley is really strategically located to get all kinds of internship and job opportunities. So it being in the Bay Area, which has all the Silicon Valley and all the big tech companies, has tons and tons of different opportunities there. I mentioned all the different like career fairs and the companies coming. It's like very convenient for a lot of those companies to do that because their headquarters or some big base for the company is really nearby. But some examples I know is that another big city that's very, very close to Berkeley is Oakland. It's like a little bit south of Berkeley. And there's this public transit system called BART that you can use. It'll literally get you to Oakland in a couple of minutes. I know of quite a few people that have gotten internships there. And I know somebody that this last fall semester, but a year ago, 2019 fall, that they had an internship at Oakland that they first got over the summer, but they carried it over to their fall semester because Oakland was so close, and they were able to kind of switch around their schedule to where they were able to take time out of their week to go to that place in Oakland to continue that internship. So that's pretty neat. And there's just a lot of other big cities and stuff around Berkeley, like San Francisco is right across the Bay Bridge. You can also go there very quickly with BART, and San Francisco hub of different jobs, all sorts of different people getting internships there all the time when I'm just, of course, with things being like online, there's definitely a little bit less of that like opportunities, but it definitely did amaze me a lot throughout my previous few semesters here, where all my friends that I knew that were like upperclassmen talking about, oh yeah, I got an internship here, internship there. And it's like literally all sorts of different places throughout the Bay Area. There's a lot of other just like towns and miscellaneous areas also in the Bay Area that have a lot of those like jobs in niche areas about. So I'd say that's definitely one of the biggest advantages of going to Berkeley compared to other universities, that we really are at an epicenter where there's just so many different opportunities for you to get jobs and internships, a lot of different employment opportunities. And yeah, it's definitely something really neat that I'm looking forward to taking advantage of these next few semesters. Hopefully we'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's so many different thousands of companies that are just based in the Bay Area. There's Silicon Valley, you have San Francisco, you have Oakland, you have San Jose. So many different places that you can potentially get internships at. So just make sure to go out there and apply, make use of the Career Center. As we mentioned earlier, they have resources for helping you in getting internships as well. So yeah. All right, next question. So since Berkeley is in an urban area, how safe is it around campus? And this one's for Harmenjit.
Yes, safety is definitely an extremely valid and relevant concern because, as mentioned, UC Berkeley is located in an urban area. However, I do think that the campus does make great use of the resources, and they do provide students with tons of resources. So from my experience, it is relatively safe. However, at the same time, at night, I probably won't be walking by myself, so I would probably be walking with a group of friends, maybe carrying some pepper spray. But the great news is UC Berkeley provides a resource so you don't have to walk by yourself. There's a program called Bear Walk, which essentially you can just dial on your phone. In fact, it's actually located on the back of all of our student IDs. Just call that number and a person will come and basically escort you to where you need to go. Super awesome. And these are all trained individuals. In addition to that, there's a cool thing called the night safety shuttle. I make use of this a lot, also because sometimes I can be a little lazy. So it's really great service, free to UC Berkeley students. You just hop on. It'll take you to tons of locations around campus, including the units on campus housing. UC Berkeley also does have its own police department called the UCPD. So although I know sometimes that may not be a resource to some, but it is something that the campus does offer. So based on that, I do think it's relatively safe. And UC Berkeley does have a community in that if there's students that are walking, can just join them, and completely understandable. They won't be like, hey, why are you following me? Students are out here looking out for each other.
Yeah, definitely. We have plenty of safety resources to help make sure that our students can remain safe on campus. In my personal experience, I've never had any problems myself. I've been up late staying at the library, studying until like 2, 3 in the morning, walk back, and it's really just quiet outside. It's pretty dark, but yeah, Berkeley is just got to be aware, if you live in the city, you probably have experience. Just stay aware of your surroundings. Don't stare into your phone, and just pay attention to your surroundings and you should be fine. All right, next question. So, what has been your favorite class so far? And this one's for everyone. Aiden, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I love this question. So I'm going to talk about a couple of classes. I want to talk first of all a class that's like related to my major, and then another like fun class that's not as related to my major that I had an opportunity to take. So the first class I want to talk about is one I took in the spring of my freshman year, which was Chem 4B. And so that was a class I was required to take for chemical engineering. It's the second semester of general chemistry. And the thing that was really neat about this class set, so there's two main things about this class that are really cool. So the class was like, it was like a lecture section combined with a lab section as well. So there's kind of like two parts of it, but there's part of the same class. And so lecture part was really neat because we talked a lot about different like issues in the world and like things that relate to chemistry. Like we talked a lot about like the energy situation, about different like methods of generating energy and how we can potentially come up with our own ways for finding alternative solutions to things like fossil fuels, which aren't necessarily the best. That was neat. And another really cool thing that we did towards the end of that class is that we basically went through the entire periodic table, like each element, and we talked about like what are the applications of the element, how does it work, and everything. That was something that was like really cool because like now like on the periodic table, like at first when you look at it, there's just like so much stuff on there. It's like all of it doesn't really mean anything to you, but like now I can say like one thing about each element, which is really cool. And then the lab section though of the class was really neat. Because the whole concept of the lab was that the first half of the lab we're just doing like normal lab experiments that correspond to what we're learning in class. But the second half of the semester, we basically got to design our own lab experiment and got to basically study whatever we wanted to. And there's this whole thing where like you got to order like certain like chemicals or materials they may have needed. And it's really cool because like everybody in your lab section was all like studying something differently. And it's really cool to just be like working on something and be like, oh, hey, like, what are you doing? And they're explaining something cool they're doing. And so that was really fun that we got the freedom and opportunity to do that in our class. And then the other class I want to talk about real quick was one I took this previous summer, which was a jazz music history class that I took. So there's a couple of like breadth classes that we need to take as a part of chemical engineering. And I really like that I had the opportunity to take this class as credit towards my major requirements because we basically just got to learn all about jazz music in America and the development of it and all the big people for that. And we got to listen to a lot of jazz music in that class. And so I really like that because like on the side, I'm kind of like a low key music nerd. And so it's really cool to just learn all about the history of music. And it's really cool. Our midterms, like you basically just play a jazz song for us and we have to describe like, oh, who's the singer for this? What's like the style of this? And like, what's like the context for this, like historically and whatnot. And so that was really cool. There's a lot of different classes at Berkeley. I definitely recommend that if you go here to look into all the different fun classes because there's just so many different fun ones. And I've heard a lot of fun. I've heard from a lot of people about just so many different fun classes that we're taking here. So there's a lot of fun stuff you can do here while at Berkeley.
All right. And Navya?
Yeah, I will say, I think my answer is very similar to Aiden's. I will say it's hard for me to choose my favorite major class because honestly, all of my public health classes have been my favorite. Love biology and everything, but public health is a little bit more intertwined with interdisciplinary studies. So I really loved all of my public health classes. Specifically, I loved my health policy class. That was where I learned all about the Affordable Care Act and the events leading up to it, what it means for us now. And I'm taking an advanced health policy class next semester, and that the class I had taken previously was my inspiration for taking that. So I loved all of my health classes, but my favorite class outside of my major classes was also a music class. I was a intended music minor for quite some time before I realized it would be a little bit heavy with my double major. So one of the courses that I took is called Music 128, which was, I think, piloted the semester I took it, which was last spring. And it was titled Improvisation in the Now, something like that. I forget. But I thought it was all music improv. And I grew up playing jazz music. I played violin, but I was like also in the jazz band, and it was a super fun time. So I was really interested in this class because I thought it would just be jazz music. And I got there, and it turns out that it's about improvisation in every space. So every week we had a different guest speaker and a different workshop in a different field of study. So one week we had a professor from the business school come and speak to us about how business presentations are all about improvisation. So he gave us this model, this pyramid model about how to approach any speech without preparing ahead of time, which I honestly still use. There was a week about poetry, a week about film and acting, and a week about, of course, music. So I really loved that this class taught me more than what I was originally intending. Of course, a lot of it had to do with music because it was a music department course, but at the same time, it was designed for any student, even if they didn't have a music background. So I think that's kind of how a lot of the classes at Berkeley are formatted. They're intended to intrigue and excite any student regardless of their background. So you never know what you're going to take away from a class. So definitely one of my favorites.
All right, and Harmenjit.
Yes. Oh, so for the sake of time, I'll just give the shorter spiel, but very similar. There's a reason why I'm majoring, and like in my majors, I'm very interested in the topics, pertaining to them. So for my favorite class, I'm gonna discuss a class that's outside of my major that I kind of touched upon earlier, a class I took on climate change. And the reason why it was my favorite class is because it really raised like oftentimes I feel like climate change is perceived as an environmental issue, scientific issue, and oftentimes the plight of people and climate justices isn't exactly focused. And so taking that class just made me more aware of that, which I'm extremely thankful for because it's, preparing me better for the world itself. So I think that class is my favorite. And I encourage everyone to take classes that are not just related to their major because you never know what you'll be interested in and what you learn.
All right, thank you all for answering the question regarding your favorite classes. There's so many different classes available at Berkeley, so just make sure to take time to explore around, ask people what they recommend, take a look at our student academic course guide. So many different resources available for finding what classes you might be interested in. All right, so we are coming to the close of our time. So we have time for just one last question. And that question is, why Berkeley? What made you guys want to apply to this school and spend the next 4 years of your life here? To start us off, how about Aiden? Do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I can start us off. So I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I really did not know much about UC Berkeley before applying here. I didn't really research anything about it. I thought I was going to like maybe one of the universities in the more southern part of California, kind of close to where I was. And yeah, I definitely was not expecting to get into Berkeley at all. I applied there, thought, it's a 1 in a million chance. I probably won't get in, but it's worth a shot. And then surprise, surprise, I got in. I was very shocked and then I just started researching about the university, trying to find out everything about it. And then I was pretty much blown away by all the big impact Berkeley had on chemistry, because that was the biggest thing that stuck out to me. So first of all, we're like really highly ranked in chemistry and all those fun stats and statistics. But one thing that really stuck out to me was that Berkeley discovered like 16 elements on the periodic table, which is very insane. That's like about 10% of the periodic table. And that's like an impact that no other university will come close to. And I just read more about the kind of prolific research that goes on at Berkeley about all the cool chemistry stuff that happens there. And so I thought that was really neat, but then I wanted to get a feel for what the campus was like, what it looked like, and what the community and culture was like. So I decided to visit the campus during Cal Day, which is the Mid Students Day. We couldn't have it this year, unfortunately, due to the whole pandemic situation, but we had everything online. I think we did a pretty good job of showing that same culture and campus community. And yeah, and I'd say that's just the biggest thing that stuck out to me when I came to the campus. I had a lot, excuse me, that was weird. When I first came to the campus, so when I was in high school, I definitely had a hard time like finding that community and finding that sense of belonging with the people that I knew. And when I came to Berkeley, I felt like that the community at Berkeley was one that I could be a part of. And ever since coming here and talking to all the people here, they kind of had that same feeling where they're really proud to be here and they found their whole kind of family or niche here at Berkeley. And so that's the biggest thing that stuck out to me. It's the reason why I chose to come to UC Berkeley. And it's definitely my favorite part of being at UC Berkeley is just having this amazing community of people. And it definitely does make me very happy to be involved with everything here on campus. So those are the main reasons why I've come to Berkeley. I could definitely guarantee you that if you come to Berkeley, you'll find that same community and that sense of belonging and that family and fun stuff. So yeah, go Bears. Woo!
All right, go Bears. And yeah, Navya, you want to answer the question next?
Sure. I also did not know a ton about Berkeley. I grew up in Massachusetts and I moved to the Bay Area about sophomore year of my high school experience. So when I moved to California, I, thought it was beautiful and everything, but frankly, I thought it was overrated. I wanted to go back home. I wanted to go back to the snow. It's currently snowing in Boston and I miss it. But as much as I wanted to go back to school on the East Coast, and I was thankfully accepted to those schools, when I got into Cal, I was really taken back. Again, like I said, I didn't really know anything about the school. I knew that it was a very highly ranked institution, but I never thought in a million years that I would be accepted of all people. So when I did get accepted, I took a couple days to just center myself. And then I decided to also come to Cal Day, which is just like Aiden said, our big open house day. And my main goal for coming on this day was to experience what it was like to be a Berkeley student, because based on my research, I was going into this day thinking that all Berkeley students are complete nerds. They're very linear minded, very like laser focused on their major or their majors, their areas of study. And I was a little bit apprehensive because I knew that I was pre-medicine. I knew that I wanted to go to medical school, but at the same time, I wanted to figure out who I was as a human being and what my passions and interests were outside of the health space, but at the same time have that experience as well. So I came to Cal Day and I was immediately surprised and taken back by the amount of passion and commitment and drive that runs through our campus. You can honestly feel that energy when you step onto campus. And as I spoke to students, especially these pre-med students, I got a sense of, just like Aiden said, belonging, of community, of sense of self. And that is something that I dreamt of. I dreamt of having a community, but also figuring out who I was within that community. And I think I was proven that day that Berkeley is the best place to do that. It is the absolute perfect stage for you to develop into a student and leader, a friend, just a human being. So that was my main intention of coming here. And I have never regretted that decision. And I am so sad to be leaving soon in a semester, but I can look back and say that these are definitely the best 4 years of my life.
All right, and Harmenjit.
Yeah, so I basically decided to apply to UC Berkeley just because, that's what I was kind of told to do. So as a first generation student, didn't really have too much of a precedent or like preferences for colleges. I was just told, make sure you apply to these schools. So I did that. And then, admissions come around and I was able to narrow it down to either UC Berkeley or UCLA. And then I did my tours, I did my pro and cons list, I did everything they tell you online to do. I was not able to make a decision. I did not know where to go. To make matters worse, my mom's side of the family started saying, UC Berkeley, it's closer home, right? And then my dad's side of the family started saying, you're pre-med. UCLA has a medical school. I think that's what pre-med students are supposed to do. And so I was just like, who do I do? So then I talked to one of my teachers, and one of my teachers was like, both schools have awesome opportunities. Both schools are world-class institutions. Just close your eyes and picture, where do you see? Closed my eyes and I didn't see anything. I was like, oh no. Oh, my brother just came in. Perks of Zoom University. But closed my eyes, I didn't see anything. But later that night, I went home and I think I took it a little bit more seriously. I wasn't as frazzled as I was at school. And interestingly enough, I had a dream of UC Berkeley. And then, you know what? I was like, this is a sign. Let me go to UC Berkeley, and submitted my intention to register. And from there, I have no regrets. Oftentimes I'm like, do you ever have like a what if thought? I truly do not have a what if thought. The people that I've met here, unparalleled. The opportunities available here, unrivaled. I've truly enjoyed my time here at UC Berkeley thus far.
All right, so thank you all for sharing your Berkeley stories. I really hope that everyone joining us today in the audience will also eventually get their own chance to tell their own Berkeley stories. And yeah, so before we officially end off today's tour, just wanted to share a couple quick resources on how to stay in touch with Berkeley. So let me just get those pulled up. Okay, so make sure to follow us on social media at Visit UC Berkeley. If you have any more questions at all, then send an email over to tour@berkeley.edu and the student master will get back to you with the answer to your question. If you're interested in hearing more student perspectives, then go ahead and check out the Bear Talk blog at beartalk.berkeley.edu. Also, if you happen to miss anything, there are different recorded virtual panels available on our YouTube channel at Visit UC Berkeley. If you're interested in hearing how Berkeley is responding to COVID-19, then go ahead and check out coronavirus.berkeley.edu. Also, we are celebrating 150 years of Women at Cal, so go ahead and check that out at 150w.berkeley.edu. visit.berkeley.edu. And also, there is a separate admissions presentation if you're curious about how the admissions process goes. So go ahead and check that out at admissions.berkeley.edu/visit. And finally, if you're interested in hearing more from us, then go ahead and check out our regular virtual visits and engineering focused visits at visit.berkeley.edu. And with that, I'd like to end with a quick Go Bears with the other ambassadors on 1, 2, and 3. Go
Bears!
Bears! All right. Thank you so much for joining us and have a great rest of your day. Happy Halloween.